Hey guys, has this lockdown made you lose track of your fitness goals? Are you starting your resolution for 2021 and you want to lose weight but need some help? Introducing my affordable workout plans for men and women. With packages starting at $5, this offer can't be beat. Go to radicallatino.com to find out more. Hey guys, do you have a product you want more eyes on? Advertise with the Radical Latino Show with over 10K podcast downloads and the number 25 spot on the 55 All Latin podcast list. You'll want your product heard on everyone's phones and cars. Go to radicallatino.com/contacts and start advertising today.
Playing the Radical Latino Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands in the air for New York's very own.
Latino is taking you to another level.
I think there's more radicals than Steve-O. Radical Latino, you're buffing it. The radical point of views, I think his views are actually more dangerous.
Hear that? It's like the post in the street. Hole in the chest.
Yo! What up, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Radical Latino Show. It's your host, the Radical Latino, aka number 17 on All Latin Podcasts, aka number 24 on All Bronx Influencer Podcasts and YouTube Influencer List, and Mr. Unsuable for 54 weeks running. What is going on? I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you guys are living good, and I hope you guys are, doing what y'all need to do. You know what I'm saying? I really do. A big shout out to all my people out there. You know what I mean? A big shout out to y'all. A huge shout out to my new subscribers. A huge shout out to all my new listeners. A huge shout out to everybody. I want to give you guys a huge round of applause. A huge round of applause. If it wasn't for y'all, this whole thing would not be possible. You know what I'm saying? So yes, a huge shout out to y'all. Give y'all some air horns. You feel what I'm saying? Give y'all some air horns. Now, there's a couple of updates before we, start this whole, episode off, right? This episode is sponsored by my merch store. You know what I'm saying? Go to the link down below. It's a Teespring merch store, or go to my website, radicallatino.com, and you could go to the merch spot on the website. Go to the website that is linked on my website. You could click the link, go to the shop, and shop for the latest shirts and hoodies and leggings for the females. Shop for all that. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple of cool new designs up in there, so definitely go check that out. Also, if you guys are not following me on social media, is radical_Latino_, both on Instagram and Twitter. If you guys are not checking me out, I don't know what y'all doing, but y'all really need to do so, because I give you guys updates if I'm gonna be late with the podcast, if I'm gonna, if I'm doing a different episode or whatever the case is. But the reason why I'm telling y'all is because I put up on my Instagram and also on my YouTube, I put up a thing that I got. Basically, I'm ranked 21 on iTunes and ranked on podcast list 8.1 for replayability and most listens. So I want to give you guys a huge shout out. Thank you very much. You know what I'm saying? Some air horns for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Some air horns for y'all. A huge shout out, because if it wasn't for you guys, this whole thing would not be possible. You know what I'm saying? This whole thing would not be possible, because you guys are the reason why this whole thing is going. Now, obviously, when you get some love, you're also going to get some hate. You know what I'm saying? So recently, my iTunes podcast, my iTunes podcast thing has been frozen for a day because it was mass flagged or whatever the case is from some of these, you know, white supremacists and probably these wannabe Hispanic white supremacist type of people, right? So they mass flagged it and they said it's due to mass flagging, it's under review. And within a couple of like hours, like towards the end of the day, it got unfrozen and it got reapproved again or whatever the case is. And you know, it's basically because I'm not saying nothing crazy. You know what I mean? I'm not saying nothing crazy. I'm not inciting, you know, riots, so I'm not inciting any insurrection type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So the haters thought that they actually got a win, but in reality they had a huge L. They just wasted their whole damn time. All of that time could have been wasted on some, like, you know, trying to get money or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. Haters are out here shooting their shot. You know what I'm saying? They were out here shooting, but all of them missed. You know, I ate them joints like Scooby snacks. Shout out to Cam. You know what I mean? But anyway, new videos on the way. New videos on the way. Stay tuned. I got a couple of things in the stash that I got ready. You know, I got ready in that repertoire. Definitely stay tuned for all of that. Now I'm going to read comments for episode 155. That's last week's episode, and it was somewhat controversial because I got a lot of people, you know, going towards it, and also the recent interview that I had with the Indigenous podcast. Shout out to them. You know, there was a couple of things said in that interview that in this interview we clarified, but there was a couple of things that we said in that interview, and people just took it out of context and just started attacking me or whatever the case is. So they started attacking them too, talking about radical, whatever. But anyway, last episode I was basically talking about and responding to Macho, his live stream on Afro Latinos, and the fact that, you know, he went down this road of racism or whatever the case is, right? So it was basically a response to that because people were asking me, you know, hey, response to it, but you know, I ended up doing so. So Latin Splaining Denise says copper equals all Latinos. Shout out to her. Yes, you know, 100%. Brotep says shout out to Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Mexican, all Latinos in general, as well as non-racist white and Asian folks. Let's make this a better world than what was given to us by our parents. Shout out to him. 100% true. Shout out to him. Keith Nelson says great show, bro. Shout out to you. Thank you very much. Juan Rambo says I was hoping for a panel discussion with Extina Denise Fighter Complex on these issues. Radical Latino, you might do a video where Afro Latinos were contributing to the Dominican Republic. Trust me, it's on the way. I have all of this on the stash. You just guys gotta give me some time. You know what I'm saying? You guys gotta give me some time. Necktie says the more they keep it up, the more Afro Latinx will break away from and reunite with the global black diaspora. And that is true. That is also true. If Latin people don't shape up and actually stop with the BS, talking about, you know, we don't accept Latin folks and all this other BS. Listen, the Afro Latinos are gonna just start going into some. They're gonna be breaking away, and again, that's part of white supremacy, divide and conquer. You know what I'm saying? That's the last thing that we want. We need to unite as one group, but it is what it is. You know, some of these Hispanistas don't think far enough into the zeitgeist. You know, I got one of my haters here. Here's the thing: Latinos come from all colors, from white to black. My siblings and I are not the same skin tone either, so should we separate families too? Nobody's talking about that. This ish is ridiculous. It's just fun. Hooray. Who takes radical serious? I guess 3,000 something people take me serious, bro. You know what I mean? And this is what these people are. They're just funny style. The thing is, we're not talking about separating families. The thing is that we got to understand that we were trying to come up with a consensus of what we should be calling ourselves. On top of that, the people that are separating us are the machos of the world, the chivos of the world, the ranchos of the world. Culture, Castillo doesn't have an issue with them. He has an issue with me. That's kind of funny. He doesn't have an issue with them talking their racist talk. That's fine to him. But with me, he has an issue. That doesn't make no type of sense. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make no type of sense. He's probably listening to this right now like, how dare you? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make no type of sense, but it is what it is. Jose Rosa says, unsubscribe from this nonsense. Peace. Catch you later. Goodbye. Farewell. Take that on your way out. What was it? Winterdale says, my sister who lives in Elmhurst, Queens, said that Hurricane Ida did a number on New York. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Even to this day, some people are still recouping from that. So, hey, listen. Shout out to all the people that got affected. Hopefully, y'all recouping fine. You know what I'm saying? Raphael says, great live stream, bro. Good job telling the truth and calling out the racist trolls like Tivo, Phoenix, and others. 100% true. 100% true. And this is the reason why I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? Franken on front says, if more Latinos are self-identifying as Native on the U.S. Census, that's a good sign that more people are waking up to the reality that they're being ruled by white supremacy, which means that your podcast is having a positive effect and impact on their psyche. I agree with you when you said that Latinos should only identify as either Black or Native on the census. If Black people are also Native to the Americas, I will push for our people to self-identify as Native as well. Yes, there is some Black folks that have some Native ancestry and Native DNA here in the Americas, and that's 100% true. Some of them, a lot of people like to say that no, they were brought from Africa. No, actually there were some Africans there were some Black folks that were here, and they do share that, and they intermarried and intermixed with the Native population. So there is historical precedents for that type of stuff. I don't know which came first or whatever the case is, but I do know that there were some Black folks here later on, but that is true. And one thing I'm gonna read Stephanie's comment, which I took for this interview because we're gonna basically talk about it. She said, and shout out to Stephanie, you know what I mean, shout out to her. She she be running her man, you know what I mean, she be doing her thing. She's a stay-at-home a wifey, you know what I mean, cooking, cleaning, and you know what I mean, she be telling her man to be going to the store for her and all that. Let me stop. She said, I think that using new terms to describe people by color is continuing to promote racist American imperialism and ideologies onto the rest of Latin America. True. And she basically goes on to basically break down certain things like we're going to be basically perpetuating the same thing, that our colonizers put out. I don't refer to myself as copper. a black, white, or other term, and I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And just briefly, I even wrote back, and mind you, in the interview that you guys are about to hear, we talk about it, we discuss it. I said, I see what you're saying. These terms are a work in progress. Nothing is set in stone. You're totally right about color-based identity is confirming to colonizer mentality. Thing is, we do need a racial identity. I don't know what it will be called, but for those of us who will fall under the cracks of identity, we need something to identify us with our definition. Because politically speaking, we can start to ask for specific aid. Ethnicity doesn't allow that thing to happen, because outside people who aren't us can come in. And that is my whole point of making Latin folks their own race. That is my whole point, because at the end of the day, we can actually unify politically and also allocate resources specifically for set race that we actually come up with. So to me, I'm seeing it as a long haul. You know what I mean? Politically speaking, I'm seeing that as a benefit, you know? And again, black and native, we could definitely fall into that. Latin people, we need to classify, regardless if we light skin or not, you know what I'm saying, to native or black. You feel me? Like light skin, when I'm talking about light skin, I'm talking about phenotypically you don't look white, but you got light skin like J-Lo and all of them, right? Phenotypically you don't look white, so you could either fall in between those two things. You know what I'm saying? Because you are not white. You feel me? So that's where I'm coming from. You know, the Anglo ones, the Nick Fuentes, the Cameron Diaz of the world, those are the ones who are Anglo Latinos. They shouldn't even be in the same conversation as us. They go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So that was my whole point into this whole conversation. That was my whole point into this whole definition, because we do need something to classify as. We do need something to identify as, and that's the reason why I like that term coppers, because it's something with our own definition that people who don't want to identify as black or native will fall under. You know what I mean? But we definitely do discuss it with the Indigenous podcast. And with that being said, for those who are listening this through the podcast, shout out to y'all. But I highly recommend you guys go to YouTube and watch the podcast from there, because this is going to be a visual podcast, and there's going to be certain things that you guys, it won't translate audibly through the podcast, but it'll translate very great visually to the podcast. So I definitely recommend this episode you guys go to my YouTube channel and definitely check it out, because there's a couple of information, a couple of things that we do put out there that is going to be something very important for us to see, or for y'all to see. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, this is going to be a little boxing match between me and let me stop. I want to give a huge Don DeMarco to the Indigenous podcast. Shout out to them. They're great brothers. I learned a lot. They're very, very well versed in Indigenous history, Indigenous research, Indigenous identity. They're very well versed and researched in that, well more versed and researched than I am. Shout out to them, and I am just very lucky and blessed to even have the privilege to have them on, so I could actually learn from them brothers. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, this is the interview with me and the Indigenous podcast. Enjoy. Yo, what up, my people? is your boy, Radical Latino. You already know who it is. I got a little new setup right now. I even got this little mic setup. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what's up. Thank you. All right, calm down, relax, calm down. So I bring you guys special guests every other week, and it isn't any different this week. All right. It's so special that I had to bring out, and represent, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? How do gotta represent the indigenous people, you feel me? Now, with that being said, I would like to introduce to you guys the Indigenous podcast. What's going on, guys? What's up?
What's up, man? Thank you for having us on, man.
Yeah. No problem. So this is Marcus and Juan. How you say it? Marcus and who and Juancholoa?
Yeah, Juancholoa, man, or you can just call me Juan for
Juancholoa.
short if you want to.
Okay, Juan. So Marcus and Juan, they're a duo group, and they're part of the Indigenous podcast. They bring Indigenous history hidden that we don't know too much about. And recently, I was interviewed by these two individuals, and it got a little heated. You know what I'm saying? Not from our interview, but from the people that were responding to it and people that were actually seeing the conversation that we were having. So I decided to bring them back. I decided to actually interview them and see if we can find common ground on certain things. Now, before we go into this whole interview, I want to just preference this and say we're fighting the same fight. We are at the same team, regardless if we have different opinions and we differ from different ideologies. At the end of the day, we are fighting against oppression that's called white supremacy. So that's what I want to drive that point home. You know what I mean? So with that being said, guys, give me a little your background. Tell the people a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah. So for me, my name is Marcus. I'm from Illinois. I was born in Peru, and I was adopted, and then I was taken. I moved to Illinois. Grew up in a city called Springfield for a lot of my life. But yeah, now I'm just living here. What really got me into this podcast was, I guess, just realizing who I was as like an indigenous, like native person, and my identity. For the longest time, I thought I was like a Hispanic or Latino, and then when I looked more into it, I was just like, wait, there must be more depth to this. And I could go on and on about like the research and like documents that I reviewed and whatnot. And then I realized, no, I see myself as a native person in a way it makes sense. So that being said, I joined indigenous social groups online, and I posted a lot of things that some people agreed and maybe disagreed on. But then somehow I magically, met Juancholoa, and we managed to start this podcast together. And, we really pushed for, the first thing is like indigenous support, unity amongst each other. And we really, we have some things that we disagree with Hispanidad and whatnot. But overall, our main goals is to like push for, unity and bringing people together. Standing up for those that have been marginalized, indigenous folks in rural indigenous communities, and then seeing where we'll go from those points. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Love your content, Radical. It makes me laugh all the time.
Thank you. Juan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I'm a fan of your content because it does make me laugh a shit ton, man. When I watch it, you got good delivery, man. Funnily enough, I was just gonna talk about Marcus and how we met a little bit. He just posted some stuff like on the Facebook group called Mexica Tribe, and a lot of the shit that he would post would be like the same type of stuff I would post, and I'm like, is this guy a copycat or some shit? and so then I started talking to him. We eventually got on the phone, and like we lasted for like an hour, and it was some pretty good combos. And I was like, we should fucking put this on a video or something. So like that's how the podcast started taking off, and we didn't expect to get this far. Like when we started, we were like, oh yeah, we'll just get like maybe like 60 subscribers from like Mexica Tribe, and that'd be pretty much it. Just be a more streamlined way to just throw it out there, and that's it. And then here we are, 1,300 something. So it took off. I was brought here illegally to the United States when I was 4. I was born in Coahuila, So Mexican, right? Yeah, by birth and by culture. And I grew up illegally, obviously in Alabama, up in the northern Alabama, right? Until I was 15. That's when I got my legal documentation. Then went to college. Went to the military for like reserves to get the citizenship faster, things like that. And yeah, like Marcus, I always just I was always, I guess I didn't really think too much about the Hispanic Latino thing until recently when I got like the DNA test, which I mean, might sound dumb to some people, but it's just like I was just confused in general. Like I didn't know what to think because nobody really had the answers to like race for us a lot of the times, or no one really discussed it. And so when I started diving more and more into the history, and I was like, oh shit, like a lot of us do have an indigenous background, but yet this isn't like really known by the average Joe, right? Out in public. So I don't know. I just thought there was some fishy stuff going on. So then I just kept digging more and more into it. And I did a lot of genealogy, like 700 hours worth, and I found my tribe, which is the Guachil Nation that still exists in San Luis, and I'll be visiting them on Saturday. I'll be going down there for the first time. They're going to receive me pretty well, so I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, here we are. We started this podcast. Above all else, what we saw a lot of another reason why we kind of got spurred to do the podcast because we saw a lot of extremes. So on the one extreme, you have Hispanistas, and the other side, you had some people that were also being like racist against white people. And we're like, well, we don't like that because I still have plenty of friends that are white. And Marcus has, friends, family that are white.
All white.
Right. So we're like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't descend into like you can't become the very thing you swore to fight against, right? You can't descend into hatred yourself. And so I just thought, like, why isn't there a moderate voice, like a good in between, a moderate voice to where you could listen to this podcast or listen to these viewpoints, and you could even say this at work, and you wouldn't be able to get in trouble because it's so moderate, and if somebody tried to get you in trouble, it's like, well, then that person would get fired, not you. So that's why we also did this podcast, because above all else, we stress moderation and reasonableness, right?
Gotcha. Now you touched on how you guys met. By the way, if you guys don't mind me asking, where are you guys located in the United States? Like East Coast, West Coast, Mountain Time, like where?
Oh, I'm located at the place where they say, why don't all these damn illegals come in the right way? Like down here in Alabama, up in.
So you're basically in one of those.
That's right. I live over here, northern Alabama.
Gotcha. And you, Marcus?
And for me, that banjo probably isn't too far away from where I'm from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Almost. Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I'm in Illinois, but I'm still around like cornfields and areas, so.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
As far as like the accent with Juancholoa, it's not too far off. Like I'm all surrounded by corn.
Wait. So Illinois, that means you guys get that Ritter, like brick cold, right?
Yeah, it gets pretty cold up here.
Jesus.
But
right.
I don't know how I'm still here. To be honest.
Dude, I told them to move down south over here with me, bro.
Do you get mad? So let me ask you something. Certain people that I've met say Illinois. Other people say Illinois. Which one is it? Which one's the correct way?
I know the S is kind of like weird in there, but it's very silent. But it's Illinois.
Okay.
So no S. Yeah, S is silent. Yeah, I know it's such a weird word. Yeah.
Gotcha. So now that we know that where you guys reside, so I know Juan just touched on just a little bit how you guys met. So how did you guys actually unite and say, let's actually start a podcast and actually let's get our viewpoints out there? Like how did that manifest?
Sure. So I'll start first. And it was even before Juancholoa, and I'll just want to add this part in here, is that, when I was adopted, there's President Fujimori, and he wanted indigenous people essentially gone, sterilized. He ran this huge campaign that this family planning, as he calls it, that sterilized, I think, what was it, around a few 100,000 indigenous men and women. It was really terrible. So that being said, then when I read about it, I was just like, wow, like, besides culture, we're essentially, the same people, and a lot of like these terrible like dictators have managed to turn like native people against each other, and then emphasizing these colonial labels and demonizing one group over the other, So that being said, what brought Juancholoa and I together was just like, I'm tired of seeing all of these atrocities, and something has to be done, because if I was in Peru and in Lima, I would be no more a Latino or mestizo, I guess, and I broke away from that because I didn't see myself as that person, and I wanted to figure out a way that we can unite each other, to fight against this colonialism. You could say post-colonialism, but I'll still call it colonialism because that's what it is. So Juancholoa and I, reached out to others who might, wanted to support us, and we were able to create this channel. So that's how we started. Maybe Juancholoa, you want to add other points that I missed out on?
So like, I guess a big motivation as to why I had such a fire with this indigenous identity thing is naturally because of my experience as an illegal immigrant and all the abuse that came with that experience. The whole, you're illegal, you're a scum, where's your green card, like a beaner, wetback, all that shit. And so when I came to find out, it's like, well, shit, a lot of my, like most of my DNA is like Native American. I was like, well, what the fuck? Like I was treated like this, like I was some fucking savage this entire time. Like I didn't belong here. And that's why I was pretty like mad at how like misdirected or like how brainwashed a lot of us are and society in terms of like they think that we're just this magical new thing, and it's just like, no, we're not. So yeah, that's a big reason why I felt such a fire, and it pushed me for this podcast because I wanted to spread that to a lot of people, everyone. And it also like tripped me out too, because like on Mexica Tribe in the early stages, I thought like in that Facebook page, I was like surprised that I saw people like saying shit about mestizo and then like really wanted to push it. I'm like, what? That is so weird. I'm like, no, like almost every other racial group I see here in the United States, especially like Black people, let's say, if they're mixed, like half and half, they don't go around like claiming the other half or like, oh, I'm both, and like I mean, sure, there might be exceptions, right? There's always exceptions, but I mean, there are a lot of them like don't do that. They just say, no, we're Black, and it serves as a really good unity. And I've seen it used for political movements, and I was like, why can't our own people do this? Why are we always constantly being like, oh yeah, but we're like part white? And I'm just like, dude, like what? You guys are like literally shooting yourselves in the foot. But it frustrated me.
It's something that I even brought up one time. You've never seen like to your point, you've never seen Black folks, Black Americans who do have, the majority of them, I believe the last time I checked was 98% of Black Americans have European DNA. You've never heard them say, I'm part Britain. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm part England. You've never heard that. You only hear that when it comes to the Hispanistas. And it shows that they don't believe their own BS, because why do you have to go out and have to announce that? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Like it's like not only are they trying to convince others, but they try to convince themselves. You feel me? It's really weird. It's really weird. And when you go and press them on this, they're gonna say, "Well, we have Spanish DNA." Yeah, nobody's denying that, but that does not make you 100% Spaniard. You feel me? Like it doesn't.
I feel you.
Yeah, and in this type of society, I mean, you're judged based off your color and like your features. If you're not completely European, like, I mean, that's just how it is. That's just how people have made it, right, over the years. So, I mean, it is what it is. You can cry and say it's unfair, but I mean, like, I'm almost half European, but did that ever spare me any abuse in Alabama? Fuck no. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't even know I was fucking half European anyways. Like, but nobody would have. It wouldn't have mattered, because the other half matters.
That's actually a good point, to be completely honest with you. That's actually a good point. And the thing is that a lot of us that we have to realize when we were, put down on that white label, you know, on the census, we never, as Latin folks, we've never, ever, ever benefited from white benefits outside of that white label. You feel what I'm saying? So,
Oh yeah.
it goes to also the whole identity with I'm part Spanish. Like none of that works in the real world. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Oh, and
So yeah, you're
something
right.
something you'll like to hear, Radical, is my experience in high school with two things, which is kind of funny because it left me more lost than when before I like voiced these thoughts right in high school. So in high school, one time I was like, well, I
Share
maybe
your
I'm like
truth. Share
I was
your
like
truth. It's your me too moment right now. Share your truth.
so like I was like I'm probably like half Aztec or something. That's what I thought. Like obviously that was wrong. I'm not. I'm like another tribe, but obviously I was just meaning half native or something. And people looked at me like I was crazy, and they're like, "No, you're not." Like they all like basically they all died out, so they started laughing at me. But then I also said at another point, I was like, okay, so I'm just a Spaniard then. I'm a Spaniard, and people looked at me and they started laughing, and they're like, "No, you're not." And these were white Americans, right? So why is it? Because I don't look like them. That's why they said that. That's why they said I wasn't Spanish. That's why they thought it was just as ludicrous, or if not
Yeah,
more so, probably.
because at the end of the day, like I've always said, we're in us Latin folks, we're in this little weird area. You know what I mean? Where it comes to like identity, but we're gonna get into that like further on. But you're 100% right. The thing is that we have to understand that most people are going to see us either as one way. At the end of the day, they know that we're non-white. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? It just baffles me the fact that certain Hispanistas like to claim that whole white side. You feel me? Like it doesn't make sense. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I would say
But
the only time it
go ahead.
would is if they literally look completely white and they're like 80, 85, 90% white and they actually
See,
just look
okay,
completely, yeah. I mean, that
so
makes
so
sense, right?
so a lot of people, all right, and from there, if we're gonna go there, that's when my whole my whole Anglo Latino comes into play. You know what I mean? You're Anglo. At the end of the day, you're white. That's it. It is what it is. You're not. There's no phenotype that is actually differentiating you from that whole, Latin label. Like, for example, Nick Fuentes. You know what I mean? He's an Anglo Latino. There's nothing Latin about him if you have not heard his name. Nothing. He's an Anglo Latino. He's not even supposed to be in the same conversation as us. He's somewhere. He's with white folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at. That's whole Anglo Latino label that I'm decided to run with. And I know it's very controversial. So certain people be like, "How dare you?" Get out of here.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what I'm saying?
I agree with you, man. Like, I don't make any differentiation. Like, that's what I thought was also weird with these Benistas or other our own people. They're like, oh, Anglo, and I'm just like, no, no, it's all the same to me. Yeah, Iberian, Anglo, whatever. You're all white. I don't care. If I make no distinctions, you're all the same, right? So that's how I view it. Like, I don't give a fuck about like the distinctions of Anglo and Iberian. It's like it's still the same thing. And people can get triggered about that, but that's just how I view it. I mean, I don't make any
Yeah,
differentiations.
like
And I've seen plenty of fully Iberian people because I had international students that were
yeah,
fully Iberian come to my university, and they looked like just your average freaking white person. I mean, there wasn't any
yeah.
difference.
Like when I came up with the whole Anglo Latino type of thing, you should have saw the comments. They mostly was like,
How dare you?
you know what I mean? Like they were they
Yeah.
were they were literally attacking me like Anglo means this. And I'm like, I don't care what you think Anglo means. At the end of the day, and I'm gonna say this again. At the end of the day, Anglo means European. That's it. Regardless
Yeah.
however the real definition is, and if you divide it, but at one time when the moon is on the east, Anglos don't make no. At the end of the day, Anglo means European. That's it. Because when there is a Anglo-European summit, all of Europe is represented. Not one is taken away. All of Europe is represented. And guess what? The whole Iberian Peninsula is part of that.
Yes.
So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Let's stop. You feel me? But what let me just just go to the whole other point. Let me go to this whole other point. When did you guys actually start to learn about your indigenous roots and your indigenous type of ideology? Like when did that awakening happen?
So it happened once I took that DNA test. I started kind of like querying online. I'm like Latinos or Hispanics or Native American. I just started seeing what results popped up and what people had to say. And then I joined those Facebook groups, and I started just being exposed to like some of the history, like when they started talking about mestizaje and like all this other stuff that I had no idea what they were talking about. And I had I started buying books, just scholarly books about like, how did the conquest go? Like, the Spaniards with the Mexica and what is mestizaje? I literally bought a whole scholarly book called The For Mestizaje by Ben Vincent III, which I read for that. So that's how I just started diving into the whole history, social, political realm of this whole situation. And a lot of these books, like, I mean, I have them literally on the shelf right there, but I use them in my debates. A lot of the times when I debate anything that has to do with this topic, I always pull out a source citation because I've gotten this stuff from scholarly sources. So it was funny because one time we like debated these Hispanistas recently, and we debated these Hispanistas recently, bro. And they got triggered because they said some bold assumption. And I was like, well, what's your source, bro? And they got butthurt because they didn't have a source, bro. And then they tried to drop
So you debated these Hispanistas? Are you serious?
Yeah, we have
in our Discord, yeah.
They somehow
in
snuck
your
in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like every time
like, where can I find this? And send me the link now. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did that? First of all, hold up. You debated some Hispanistas. You know what I mean? Let's give you a Don DeMarco for that one. That's crazy. That's what's up. So what was their? Not trying to steer away from your whole thing, but what was mostly their argument? Like, how did you destroy their argument?
So they try to just really paint broad brushes, like, and at first I was taking it at face value, but I should have just been more nitpicky with it because they were saying, oh, well, the Spaniards brought civilization. The Spanish Inquisition wasn't that bad. Like the natives were just savages. Like, just these really broad generalizations that just, they don't hold up to scrutiny once you actually directly question these things.
Yeah, dude, because the funny thing is when it comes to that, 99% of everything these Hispanistas say, just like white supremacists, is complete BS. It's complete BS because it's easily debunked. It's so easily debunked. You know what I'm saying? But continue. How did you break that thing down?
So I let those slide, and we started like, and we did engage with those points, but I kind of let them slide. And then when he said the Spanish Inquisition wasn't that bad, that's when I was like, "Do you got a source for that?" Because up until that point, every time I had said any point, I always ended it with a source citation, like, "Oh, and you can, this is from." You were like.
Stop the cap.
Yeah, like every time I said something, I was like, "Oh, for example, my point here comes from Fist Song by Camilla Townsend, or my point comes from Visions of a Huachicol Witch, right?" So, but they wouldn't have anything. So I was like, "What's your source?" And they kind of like stuttered. They're like, "Look, what are you talking about?" And then they like took a few seconds and they posted a Wikipedia, and I started making fun of them. I'm like, "Dude, you're gonna use Wikipedia? It's not even accepted in middle school, bro. It's like it's not even a valid scholarly source." And they started getting butthurt. And one of the guys was like, "Oh, you think you're better than me because you have sources?" And Marcus would try to be diplomatic because Marcus is a nicer guy than me, because he was like, no, we're not trying to say we're better than you. And I cut Marcus off. I was like, no, I am better than you because I have fucking sources, because I have a better backing. So yes, that makes me better than you. Yeah, I'm so buttered, dude. Dude, he got so but he just sounded like one of those old farts that like never reads, and he was like butthurt that someone called him on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yo,
it was like
hilarious.
We had them in our Discord for like an hour and 40 minutes or something.
Yeah.
We talked to them I should have kicked them out much earlier. I don't know why. Like, I know that like Juancholoa, like you said that maybe I'm the nicer guy, but I'll be savage if I have to.
Well, yeah, I mean, Marcus will eventually get mad, and then he like turns into an assassin. But dude, but you could tell these guys were traumatized with how I fucked them up because one of our other subscribers was fighting them on the voice chat. And they pulled the same tactic I did. They're like, "You got a source for that?" That you could tell they were so traumatized at how I fucked them up. They try to adopt my tactics. I'm like, bro, y'all are pathetic. Y'all really gonna adopt my tactics because I fucked y'all that hard?
They're like,
how dare you?
Their arguments that they make, it's always the same thing, and it's really easy to dismantle them. Their arguments. It's always like the whole like conquistadors didn't commit genocide, black legend. 1542, there were no more indigenous slaves. They yada yada yada. Encomienda systems wasn't a form of slavery, which is a lie.
Yeah.
Or like we mixed with natives, we weren't so bad. So it's like they ignore like everything.
And they're also really stupid because it just makes me mad that all their arguments boil down to is let's paint all the native. Let's pretend all the natives on this two fucking continents were Mexica or Aztec, right? So only the Mexica and Aztec exist as a tribe with its own culture. All these other fucking groups, they were all Aztec. So let's just make these broad ass generalizations, just taking one tribe's specific fucking culture and actions and judge everybody off of that. And I'm just like, that's extremely idiotic. Like, why does it always boil down to Aztecs versus Spaniards with you fuckers? Like, it's way more complicated than that. Like, open your fucking mind.
The thing is that I don't think they understand that obviously there was multiple indigenous groups in the Americas and also in the Caribbean. There was multiple indigenous groups, and focusing on one is kind of limiting your whole scope. You feel me? I get to the point where I don't even want to even like, I end stuff. I end shit quick. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is that it's good to actually have these type of discussions with these type of people because shows everybody else how to deal with it. Also, on top of that, it shows everybody else, okay, let me actually look at these sources that the opposing people are putting up and my side is putting up, and let me actually compare it, and people will actually see that, nothing that these people are talking about is actually factual. It's insane. When I started to like really research the whole Black legend type of thing, end up finding out that was all BS. It really, I started laughing because I was like, I can't believe that these people literally say something and people won't just research it. When I found out the black just the label Black Legend was something that the Spanish created as a way to like, okay, let's do damage control, and let's call it this. You know what I mean? It's insane, and these people actually go along with it. It's laughable to me. So when it comes to certain things like that, again, how did you guys end up like basically decolonizing yourself from the whole Spaniard type of thing, and also learning about your history? How did you guys start maneuvering that?
As far as decolonizing, which is always an interesting word to use, and like learning more about my history and disassociating myself from like Hispanic and Latino, I would say these things are quite clear cut to me. The first thing was realizing that, well, actually, even I myself had a negative view of like Native American, because I was taught that Native Americans were primitive people and they lived in teepees, and that was the end of the story. The American education system does a very, very, very negative favor to Americans because they teach them of what I just said, that they're primitive people, and they barely talk about the Mayans and the civilizations of the Aztecs and the Incas as well. All they say is like the Spaniards beat them. They don't mention anything as far as like any other advanced civilizations like the Tlaxcalans in other cities and areas that helped them. It's always Spanish this, guns and glory that, natives lost, and then they all suck, the end. Yeah. So what really separated me was like, as far as decolonizing, I think it was a young age when I realized that I had read something in the paper, or someone that I knew showed me something in the paper of someone who had won Miss World, and it was a woman from Peru, and I was just like, finally, I get to see a woman who looks like me, because equal representation was important to me at a young age, and I see this woman, and she's literally as white as snow, and then at that point, and as I grew older, I was just like, wait, so this person is also considered a Hispanic Latino as well. So we're the same? I was like, no. So I did, more research and like watching like movies to help better, help me understand these difficult issues more. I watched a movie called La Otra Conquista. I think it's called that. And it's actually a very depressing movie. It goes into, I think it's like 1520. When I think he's Mayan or Aztec, he wakes up into this new world where like the Spanish just like, killed off a lot of his people. And, Hernan Cortez has he's starting his empire, and like all the natives, like pretty much a lot of them are being Christianized and whatnot, and they're being treated really poorly. I mean, there's sexual assault, there's decapitation, pretty much anything terrible you can think of happens in this movie. And that's when I realized it was just like, okay, so I'm thrown into this like mestizaje. And so learning more that, I see myself as a Native person, and no one will tell me differently. I don't wish to associate myself in a label with, I'm going to be very honest here with you, with a group of people like the Criollos in administrative government positions that really could care less about me, or people of darker skin complexion. That is the honest truth. Now, of course, like obviously not all people of pure Spanish descendants don't think that way, but I think over time in history and what I have seen with my eyes, that is what I'm going with. I don't wish to associate with being called Hispanic. And again, if we all look at the history, Hispanic was I think it was created by white Americans, but a label created by the U.S. government to pretty much assimilate everyone from the South and Central American continent, Mexico included, and pretty much ignoring race. Latino was created by the French, again for assimilation reasons, and mestizaje was created by the Spanish, if I'm not correct. And essentially it was for assimilation purposes. They pretty much used the same old kill the Indian, save the man sort of tactic in my view. So the native is now looked at as this mestizaje person. You are a part of a new culture. And you know what's funny? And I've been thinking about this lately is like, I don't know if we've talked about this, but like we have a substantial group of enemies that really dislike us. And they go from like Hispanistas to, natives, certain native gatekeepers, to others that like, they really don't stand for what we stand for, and they, insult us and things like that. So I always try to think of what like names they might call us. Like they'll call like Juan maybe the white conquistador and his Anglo wannabe Peruvian or something like that. I try to think of these nicknames that they might try to generate for us, because I'm sure they have some things for us by now.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
But yeah, I digress. So going back, that's what really started me on my decolonizing mission, because I didn't want to associate with these terms. I saw myself as Native, and I see now that with the podcast started, like we obviously have a lot of people triggered about this, and that's good. It means they're like getting our point across. That people are willing to go into our Discord and argue with us means that Juancholoa and I are doing something right. If they're willing to do that. And of course, like we have the unfortunately like gatekeepers that think that, who don't want to say that we're native or indigenous to this continent. Honestly, I think they're more not difficult, but more, might give Juancholoa and I a little bit more of a headache to debate, aside from the Hispanistas. The Hispanistas are very easily debatable. Their arguments, as I said, easy to dismantle. And some word of advice to them, I would probably urge them to stop being so anti-American. That does not help. Because the difference between those people and Juancholoa and I is that we want to we like our outside support. Like I always thank my non-native like supporters and whatnot. Thank you so much for like supporting us, watching us, and everything like that. Because if you want to get a movement on a political level and you're living in a diverse country, you have to have that outside support. And if you don't, your movement will fail. And if you're going to be anti-American, showing pictures of burning the flags, showing U.S. soldiers being slaughtered and being happy about it, like that's not going to get you anywhere. Like you're the scum of the earth, in my opinion, if you're going to be like that. Sorry, I get heated about that because I'm not like I don't see myself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So that's what Juancholoa center ourselves on. Like we're both moderate people. I view my political views, somewhat in the middle. But yeah, I respect both sides, of course. But again, going back. Sorry again.
Yeah.
Just
no, it's all right.
That's what started thank you. The decolonization process was seeing someone different and having the support. Like again, like we have so many non-native people that support what we have to say. Like sure, and it's funny, a lot of non-native people that I meet, they say it's a little bit hard to understand what we're saying because they don't know that much about the South American colonization and history. But I think our videos are educating them and getting them to learn a little bit more, which is great. But we have other support, and we have people from North America, northern natives, as we call them, that support us as well. We've had people on. We just had someone on that was from a tribe a little bit ago, and they support what we have to say. So no matter the Hispanistas and the gatekeepers can continue to cry if they want, or they can go run to their mom. It's irrelevant to me. Because Juancholoa and I are just going to continue to move forward. They can still live in the past.
The thing with these native gatekeepers is like, do you not realize like there's people on TikTok or on other platforms that have like 1 million followers that say the same thing we do, or tens of thousands. So it's like, Indigenous podcast just decides to quit because we just, we're belligerent towards them. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like this is going to happen with or without us. It will happen. Like this movement's going to continue. So I just think it's kind of funny sometimes when sometimes the people like so obsessed with us. They're like, oh, we got to destroy Indigenous podcasts. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to change it.
I am fully aware about people being obsessed. I know that.
Dude, they're really obsessed with you, bro. Like they just started trying to infiltrate the Discord. They're like, radical Latino, radical. Yeah,
I'm not even part of that. Like I don't even know what Discord is. Everybody keeps on telling me I should get one. I don't know. But all right, so let me just move back. So same question. When did you start to decolonize and all this other stuff? And when did you actually start to actually see like, oh, okay, everything that I thought I knew was all BS?
Yeah, so I mean, it just goes back to like initially the gears started turning when I started looking at like our ancestry, right, with the like DNA tests and stuff. And then I started joining these Indigenous Facebook groups, and they started, talking about like the history. So then I started delving into the history, like the scholarly sources, and that started opening my eyes about like what is mestizaje, where did it come from, why do my people think the way they do? A lot of them like with the whole like we're mestizo and all that nonsense. So that's what really started it. And then eventually I started doing genealogy. I didn't know how to read Spanish cursive. I didn't know how to do anything with genealogy, but I joined a Facebook group called Mexican Genealogy, and they're very, very good, full of a bunch of professionals. And so I started learning, and I invested 700 hours of work and time, and it was worth every minute of it, right? And I find out, like, through my like all that heavy research that I'd be Guachicil as far as the tribe. Like I have some other ancestry, but primarily Guachicil. Like 90-something% of my ancestry comes from these regions, and I've traced like 69 full-blooded Native Americans on paper from these like towns that would be Guachicil. And I've paired that with historical research, so we know these towns are Guachicil. And then I ran across another person that identified as Guachicil named Isaac. And he'd been practicing the culture for a while, and he knew about this, and he'd done genealogy as well. And we just kind of started working together because we wanted to like gather descendants. And then when we were gathering people that knew their roots, like descendant wise, we ran into this group on Facebook, right? Or like these people on Facebook that were Guachicil, but they lived in San Luis Potosí, which are the ancestral lands. And they themselves were like, no, there's already a community here. We're already Guachicil. Like it's been passed down like for example, like Ashola, like his grandparent passed it down to him, and then that grandparent, had it passed down from another one. So it's like people that have had the culture and traditions passed down. And when we told that, like, I showed him all my genealogies, Isaac, like, showed him his and stuff, and they were looking for descendants to reconnect. They wanted them back because they want to continue to pass those traditions and that culture on. They want to grow the ethnic group, basically, right? They want descendants to return. They think it's a gift. They think it's a really good thing. So, and that's what I thought was so beautiful, because I'm like, I had just been used to seeing the opposite with all these gatekeepers saying, oh yeah, they wouldn't want you back, and just saying all this negative shit and like always these broad ass statements. And that's what kills me. All these people, like, how many people with such confidence say all these broad ass fucking statements, and then they're always wrong at the end of the day. And that's what I found out with them. They accepted us as brothers, and so the Huacholoa Nation is already recognized in San Luis Potosi by the local municipality in San Luis Potosi as an existing tribal nation, and they're also recognized by national indigenous organizations in Mexico. And again, they've had the culture for passed down generations through generations, and so they just want descendants to return and learn, and they accepted me in as a member, and that's why I'm going Saturday to go down there. They're going to receive me very well, officially give, like, my name Juancholoa is actually a Huacholoa name. They're going to officially like give it to me in a ceremony when I go on Saturday. And
wait. Let's give them some air horns for that one. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you literally got a name, a native name, outside of the whole. You know what I'm saying? To actually, so you literally just went there to break away from the cycle. You feel me? What made you go to that step? A lot of people won't. So what made you go to that step? And I'm gonna change my name. I'm actually going, not LARP as a native, but you are actually native. So what made you go and take that step?
I mean, just because I just legitimately wanted to reconnect, and not a lot of people have the same luck with like the research panning out the way it does. Because I mean, anything can go wrong with the genealogy. Maybe the records are destroyed. Maybe they're not indexed. Maybe you don't even know who your grandparents were, and you can't even trace back. So I had a lot of luck, and it just kind of fell into my lap, the fact that they still existed. And I was like, damn, because I thought they weren't still existing like this, the Huacholoa ethnic group. I just thought, like, it's like, oh, well, I mean, I have the blood, I have the ancestry, but they're gone, right? But they're not gone. And when they just realized, I just realized that they wanted a lot of descendants back. So that's why I took the effort to reach out to them, talk to them. They got to know me very well, like many video conferences and things, and reviewing my stuff. And so, yeah, that's why they invited me, and that I'm going this Saturday. That's when all that's going to happen. I think that experience will change my life. That's what the elder was telling me. He thinks when I come back to the United States, after I'm only going for 4 or 5 days, but he thinks that after I go through some experiences with them in these ceremonies, then I'm probably going to come back here a different person, in a good way.
Yo,
don't get me wrong.
I already know by the time you come back with wow feathers, you know what I mean? A bunch of tattoos and all that, you know what I mean? So I already know. I was like, oh shit, that's it, you know? No, but I know it's gonna be a very, very positive experience for you. You know, I know that it's actually gonna probably open your eyes to a lot of things. So not trying to dive too deep into it, but what do you think? What are some of the expectations that you think that is actually gonna broaden your horizon a lot more?
I think when I go, because they were talking a lot about, so the ceremony on Saturday, when they gave me the name, they told me when I, because I got to fly there, right? They said not to eat anything, the fast the entire day, and to try not to drink too much water. But because that's part of the ceremony. But I think it's going to be very spiritual, and I'm not, like, I'm always been kind of on the fence with spirituality. I was atheist for a lot of times at college, and I was Christian when I was way younger and stuff, but I'm not. So I think it's going to be a very spiritual experience, and I think that's also going to change my perspective a lot. And I think it's going to be very good in terms of like doubling down on what we're doing as far as I know, because like that's the funny thing. Some gatekeepers or some people that are like, oh well, these indigenous communities would never want mestizos back, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no, but mine does, and mine wants wants mestizos to reconnect and become Guachichil again, and that's how they view things. So I just think it's going to be a very powerful experience, and like I'm just like it's basically I'm just going to be immersing myself in the culture. I'm trying to go there to learn as much as I can. So yeah, I'm just really happy. Like I said, a lot of people don't have that type of luck, you know.
Yeah, no, shout out to you. To find out, I don't really know. I just got my DNA test from 23andMe, so it doesn't really break down what kind of indigenous tribe. I found out I think I'm 48% indigenous. You know what I'm saying? So that's the majority of what I got, and then Spanish is like the second majority, which is I think is 30% or something like that. So what as somebody like me that is like don't know what part indigenous, what would you tell me if I want to find out how to get my indigenous tribe, how to like sort that out?
So to really know, I would say, obviously if your family history, your family itself doesn't know, like how mine didn't, then through genealogy research, so try to get as much information as possible. Like what were your grandparents' names? Like how old were they when they died? When were they born? Or if you're fortunate enough to get your great grandparents' names, that'll give you a very firm base to start off genealogy research. You start off that genealogy research, and like for example, in Mexico, if you go down to the early 1800s, like 1820, it'll tell you what caste label those ancestors were, if they were Native American or not. It's rare for it to state a tribe. That's what I'm saying. You have to trace a little further back, and you have to have consistency and pair that up with historical research to really know. Plus, like what region was that land mostly inhabited by? It gets a little more dicey if like you trace to a place where it was inhabited by many different tribes. It's going to be really hard to know.
The only thing that I know is that my mom spoke Quechua fluently, and I'm half Ecuadorian and Dominican, right? So,
right.
When it comes to the Dominican side, my family don't know anything. When it comes to my Ecuadorian side, they pretty much know, like, yeah, oh yeah, we're indigenous and blah 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 blah, to the point where my mom knew 3 languages. She knows 3 languages: Quechua, English and Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So, and I found out about it when I went to Ecuador. You know what I mean? She just started speaking Quechua to the local natives up in the mountains, and I didn't know. I was like, the hell are you talking, right? But that's the only thing I knew. So with that, do you think I have a pretty much a good starting point into
no, definitely, especially because your mom already has a very firm connection. Knowing an indigenous language is a very big deal. I would try to sit down with your mom and just find out as much information about the family and about that side. How does she know Quechua? Did her parents know it? Did her grandparents know it? Does she remember maybe they came from a specific pueblo or tribe per se? And that would let you know. I mean, that right there is very valuable. The fact that your mother speaks it, right? So take advantage of that.
I know for a fact that when I found out about it, she looked at me and my brothers and sisters like, well, how come we didn't know that she knew about it? You know what I mean? Like, but she told me that was her first language. You feel me? And my grandmother, her mother, instilled it into her, saying that you got to learn this and then Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So so my grandmother knew also Quechua and so on and so forth. So that's why I wanted to, because now I'm thinking back and I'm like, maybe I got some deep connections to the Incas in Ecuador. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm sure you have some really interesting connections. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just try to sit down and get as much information.
I look like an Indio, right? So I should.
No, but you have a really recent connection, which is very valid. Not a lot of people have that, man. The fact that your mother speaks that, and I mean, even if you like, a good part of reconnecting, maybe even for you, would just be if you just started learning a little bit of what she speaks. Quechua yourself. That would be a very, very good move.
I just want to know. I just want to know the curse words. That's it. No, let me stop. Let me stop. So now that we pretty much get the basis of how you guys started your journey into decolonizing yourself. What was the first? Were you guys surprised when you started getting pushed back? And I'm just gonna guess. were you guys getting pushback from your own people at the beginning?
Yes,
It's a yes or
Yeah.
no. Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
How did I know that?
You know the saying, obviously, the saying that the greatest, I mean, it won't apply to Marcus, but, you know, he can appreciate the sentiment, but the saying that the greatest enemy, or you won't either, Radical, actually, you're not Mexican, but you know, we have a saying, us Mexicans, that the greatest enemy a Mexican's going to have is another fucking Mexican, and that has proven true time and again for me.
I heard that, but
Yeah.
I've also, no, because when I started with my thing, the biggest pushback were from, you know, my Latin people. You know what I'm saying? You know, talking about, you know, we shouldn't be talking about and all this other stuff. So,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking. Like, so when you guys started getting pushback from your own people, right? Did you guys start to actually see the ideology on why this pushback happened? Was it clear from the beginning that it's actually the Hispanistas and all this other stuff? Was it clear, or was it kind of diluted?
It was diluted at first until I started like educating myself more as to why. And for me, the biggest thing was mestizaje, that whole ideology. But where does it come from? It comes from the Spaniards, obviously. Hispanistas push mestizaje. So it always came back to mestizaje, because I swear to God, like, dude, Radical, like, probably the word I hate the most out of any word in any language is just the word mestizo at this point. Like, anytime I hear this word, I get fucking instantly triggered. Like, it's like, so many times that I've just had a debate against this word, or people throwing it in my face and like, oh, we're all mestizos, or you're a mestizo, and it's so annoying. And like, I don't, and so, it always trips me out, these people that are proud of it, or like that, like, it's like, dude, it literally means half breed in Spanish. Like, why, you know, how are you proud of yourself calling yourself a freaking half breed? Like, you're a dog.
That's actually a fact. Like, when people was like, well, maybe you should identify as an Afro mestizo, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. You know, like,
Yeah.
I let it go. But at the end of the day, for those who don't know, probably you guys can educate everybody else now. But you know, these terms that came from the Spanish due to the caste system, these terms like mulatto, mestizo, and stuff are derogatory terms that they came up, right? So maybe you guys could probably educate us on a little bit more on that. But they're derogatory terms, and the fact that certain people are okay with naming themselves that says a lot.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly, man. Like, because I've talked about it before. Like, do you have other words for mix in Spanish? Which I always think is weird when they're like, oh, like mestizo just means mix, and I'm just like, and no, it means half breed. Like, literally, I had translators from Mexico City, like, because okay, so I speak pretty good Spanish, but I was never formally educated. Like, I'm not perfect in Spanish. So, but I've had a lot of my literary works, like short essays, political essays, I've made translated to Spanish before, because I wanted it to be flawless. And I, like, a lot of the translators I've used, or this one translator I've used that's been reviewed like 12,000 times, 5 stars every time, he's translated mestizo as meaning half breed. And then, I mean, if you look at it through Google Translate and stuff, that's what it means. I mean, we have other words in Spanish like mixto or mezclado, that would be mixed. That's more indicative of mixture. That's literally the word for mix. But mestizo is like really specific. And it's just like, and it's funny because some people will be like debate and be like, no, like, mixto mezclado is like used for like animals or objects, but I'm just like, yet the Mexican government used that for mixture. Like, for example, in the 1920 census of the Mexican government, they call people raza indígena mezclado con blanco, which basically means indigenous blood mixed with white blood, right? But they use the word mezclado, so it's like no, it's not incorrect. Like, they're literally were using mixture. They weren't saying mestizo for everything. They didn't say raza indígena mestizo with blanco. Like, what the fuck? That wouldn't make sense, right? So so yeah, I just think, but yeah, people, a lot of people don't even realize that it just means that whole half breed shit. I remember on Facebook this one time on this DNA sharing group or whatever, this woman like posted a picture of her daughter, and she was like, my little mestiza, and I just cringed, dude. I was like, oh my god, she just called her daughter a little half breed. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of people are not educated like we are, you know, on the fact of, you know, a lot of people are not educated. Like, the word Hispanic, you know, a lot of our people actually gravitate to that word because they don't know any better. You know, there's another part where gravitate to that word, you know, purposely, because they do know better and they're choosing to identify with that word because that is mostly associated with Spain. You feel what I'm saying? So, but yeah, like, you know, we can't, like, I understand what you're coming from, but also
Yeah.
like at the same time we're like, okay, you don't really know, you know, it's time to educate
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
You
I
feel
mean,
me?
I didn't judge I didn't judge too hard. It's kind of like I was like because I knew what it meant. I was just like, oh, this is kind of bad from this context, but I wasn't like trying to like be like, oh, fuck all y'all, like because you don't know, like because I mean that's not a good position to take. Like one out of arrogance, like that's not good either. So
Gotcha. And Marcus, same question goes for you.
Yeah, so it's funny. The other day I posted in the Discord, and this is just for all jokes, that who was the biggest threat to Indigenous podcast? And A was Hispanistas, B was gatekeepers, C was clan members, 4 was Wabos, and then not 4, sorry. E was Wabos, and then D was Wabos. E was aliens, and surprisingly, a lot of people picked aliens. uh, but you know, going back, yeah, our pushback mainly in the beginning did come from Hispanistas, only because like we very much were opposed to the rhetoric that came from you know, Jose Vasconcelos, Mestizaje. If you watch the first few of our videos, we really push our disagreements with that term. How it is formed from colonialism and is still implemented in U.S. government census, not U.S., but census government forms across Central and South America today. And if you dive more into the research of it, you know, Mestizaje is very, you know, Eurocentric, and it's pushed to pretty much separate, you know, those living in, you know, indigenous communities to those that may be also indigenous but, you know, living in urban cities. Like, for example, if I'm a man, that indigenous man, which I am, but if I'm living in the jungle area, though, the Peruvian world will look at me as a you know, indigenous person. But if I move to the city and I dress up in a suit, the Peruvian world will no longer look at me as an indigenous person. They will look at me as a mestizo or some sort. And that's just my opinion, but that I believe it's true. A lot of it is based off culture. So that's the disconnect that I have with mestizaje, is that you can be as tan, as dark as me, or even darker, and still be considered mestizo. Like, I could go further and on into it. But yeah, the pushback that we got was mainly from gatekeepers that were trying to say, no, like, you're speaking over indigenous folks, which we weren't. And just trying to say, no, you're not indigenous, you're not native. And then my question was like, okay, then what do you suggest we are? Of course, this person never gets on to that point because, like many, you know, gatekeepers, they never have the solution. Of course, it's not their responsibility, but to just say that we aren't native to this continent or indigenous to this continent is, I think, a very dishonest opinion to have amongst us.
That, and it's just like a conflict in worldviews with this, because I've posted about this where the really conservative side that are gatekeepers against us say that it's all about culture and ethnicity and the tribe, right? And then our side is like, well, you know, a lot of people lost that due to forced assimilation and atrocities, right? And that's not the fault of the descendants or those ancestors. So it matters that they still have that native blood and that ancestry, right? And that's what matters. And so a lot of people resonate with that, but a lot of people, you know, want to, I mean, I would say it's more of a minority stick to this really conservative side, which I just think is really like short-sighted and closed-minded, the way to, you know, just to view it like that and just be like, oh, well, you know, your tribe was assimilated. Fuck your ancestors, basically. They lost. And it's just like, that could have easily happened to y'all too. Like it could have been a historical coin toss, and it would be the opposite, where Marcus is still part of his ethnic group and this other ethnic group is completely assimilated, right? It's all historical coin toss. You're just going to base it all off like what the Europeans happen to do to one ethnicity or to another. And it's just like, that's callous. That's short-sighted. So I just think it's silly. And to negate that blood and DNA, like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like race doesn't matter. And like, I don't know, like yes, culture does, it matters. But I mean, if you lost it again, due to the forced assimilation, why penalize people for that? And we're like the only group where this discussion like is so fiery. And I just think it's silly because, for example, you have a black person that was adopted by white parents and grew up, you know, with white culture in a white community and all. They're still a black person. It doesn't matter anything about their culture or community, they're still black. And it's like, but it's not the same thing with us. And that's just fucking silly to me. You know, all these double standards, all these double standards always apply to us, but nobody else.
Add on to like, and I bring this up too, like if you look at Crazy Rich Asians, the lead character of that movie was someone who was half white, half Malaysian, if I'm not correct. But you don't see any criticism towards him, but he's still considered like a full-on Asian, like no one says anything. But for us to, but then you have these idiots that say, no, you have European blood in you, you can't be an indigenous native person. I mean, we're getting to a point now that just makes you look really stupid.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if we really want to be nitpicky about it, everybody's mixed. There's nobody that's,
Sure.
it's less than 1% of the population that is actually a pure breed, whatever. You know what I mean? But it's less. So everybody's mixed. So at this point, even putting that out there, it's pointless. You know what I'm saying? It's really pointless. But my next question is, when you guys start to get the pushback and actually start to see some of these Hispanistas go and just pretty much they just go on the fact that be mestizo, be mestizo, be mestizo, be mestizo. That's basically it. That's all they go on. And if you actually, I don't know if you guys agree to this, but you guys actually peel back the layers of some of the Hispanistas ideology, it comes from white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys agree to that, but that's how I see it. I see that it does come from white supremacy. And the reason why they harped so much on the whole mestizo, because that whiteness is being, pretty much, the pillar, because that whiteness is included into that. And yeah, they don't mind being, a little brown with indigenous, never black, but indigenous. That don't matter as long as you got that whiteness into it, And I think Mexican Excellence made a great point, because when she broke down the ideology of these people, I believe she quoted somebody, but when she broke down the ideology of these people, she basically said that whenever people do talk about mestizaje being mestizo, it's always that European father in the indigenous mother. It's never the reverse.
Yeah.
Always they hold that European man to a higher standard. You know what I'm saying? So that right there is to me, that right there is a huge wake up to me. Like my eyes get open, because I see that they actually see themselves lacking in manhood, because they actually see white folks. I'm gonna just say what it is. They actually see white folks as the default man, and now they have to compensate and say, well, I'm mestizo because I do got white blood in me. You know what I'm saying? Do you guys agree to that? What's your thoughts?
No, I agree to that. I've always thought it was weird, because I've heard this with those Hispanistas we debated recently, where they were like, oh yeah, you're denying it. It's like denying your father, like, your Spanish father. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, it just sounds so stupid and cringe. It's like, dude, my dad's more Native American than I am. Like, I've traced the genealogy down as further as I can. Like, I stopped at 1802. That's where I came to a standstill. And you know what that record said? He's a fucking Indian from the valley. So what are you talking about? Like, Spanish father, whatever, fuck my ass, So I just think it's just so weird, man. It's like, why it has to be a Spanish father? It's never, yeah, and you're right. Mexican Excellence points this out. It's never an indigenous man with a Spanish woman. I never see that. They never talk about denying your Spanish mother. So yeah, it's just weird.
Fetishization that they have, if that's a word. It's a weird fetish. They seem to have with the Spanish, Iberian father and the native mother. They always bring up those points. God, I would hate to be one of those. People always thinking of that. Yeah. Weird, thought. But I guess, they never think of there can be a Spanish woman and a native man, being together. It's always like the opposite.
Right, and you are right, Radical, that I always think it's always weird when they're like about the whole mestizo thing, because it's like, dude, like, I've done the genealogy. Like, first of all, I have black DNA for, like, it's not much, it's like 5%, 6% for my DNA test, but I've done the genealogy. I've traced to, like, I haven't counted them up. I want to count them up, actually, but I would probably say like 2 to 3 dozen black grandfathers or grandmothers. You know, I have a lot of black ancestors, right? And yet that's never included in the conversation. It's like none of us, like most people have black ancestors like recently from colonialization because they were brought here. Like I'm talking about like a couple generations ago. So it's like we're not even mestizo under the caste system because we all have black DNA too. We're also like part black. So it's kind of funny. They always want to pick that specific caste label, and it's like that's not even what anybody really is. If we're gonna go by caste labels, right? No one's even a freaking mestizo anyway.
Yeah, if we really want to be nitpicky about it, nobody. You know what I mean? Nobody really is, but I do find some of the ideology just laughable, you know, especially when it comes to certain people that bring up and come up with this theory of like 3 roots or whatever the case is, you know what I mean? And they're literally harping on that fact, you know, and it's just laughable to me. So we when we interviewed, right, we came up with a classification of identification called copper, right?
Yes.
And we're playing with the word copper and bronze, playing around, and we came up to the consensus that copper was something, you know, that we pretty much just liked the way it you know, it was hearing in the ear, and it just resonated with us, but we were still brainstorming and having a consensus of it. So I want to just basically say time to fight. No, let me stop. So when I came up, so you guys gave me your definitions. I came up with the same definition, just tweaked it just a little bit.
Okay.
Now, there was a couple of things that people brought to my attention that I was like, okay, that is true. For example, a lot of some people were saying that they disagree with the whole copper label because we're going back into the whole colonial mindset of labeling everybody else with a color, you know. And I did see that point, and I commented back saying I understand what you're coming from. Again, it's not set in stone. It's something that we're just workshopping. You know what I mean? So we need more people to come into it, right? But and there was a couple of people that disagreed with my interpretation and stuff like that of it. All right. So I don't know who wants to start, but where did the misunderstanding occur, either on my end, on your end, or in between? Let me know. So whoever wants to start, where did the misunderstanding, you know, come from?
Oh, so like, well, first I'd want to ask you because maybe we just misunderstood like language, right? That's also really common because maybe a certain way you use the word is not going to be the way we use the word or what we think of it, right? So, yeah, you know, some of my subscribers were like flipping shit and they were like jumping the gun, like, you know, like people are prone to. And they're like, well, radical Latinos saying that all Latinos are copper. And so to us, like when we hear Latino, like we lump in people that are like criollos, that are like basically completely white as being Latino. So that's why we were like, wait, but they can't be copper because they're completely white. Or people that are like, let's say, basically all phenotypically black. It's like, well, they're already black. You know, they could technically be Latino, but they're already black. They already got their own thing. Why would they be copper? So, but how do you use Latino? What's your definition of a Latino?
Okay, so my definition of Latino, again, I think maybe my definition got like crossing the wires or whatever. But my definition of Latino is Black, Native, and light skin. That's what my definition of Latino is. Nowhere do I consider someone who is Anglo Latino. Again, Nick Fuentes, Louis C.K., Cameron Diaz, they're not Latino to me. They're white, plain and simple. So to me, Latinos are Black, Indigenous, and light skin. And when I say light skin, I mean like the Jennifer Lopez's. Those are to me Latinos. You know, phenotypically you're non-white, even though you got lighter skin. You feel what I'm saying? So that's what my
Okay.
definition is. Is do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree?
Oh,
When
I,
you
I,
mean
as- oh, I was gonna ask, like, when you say black, do you mean like completely black, or do you mean like black mixed with like native, or what do you mean by that? Oh,
Black uh black as Wesley Snipes to black as be mixed. It doesn't matter to me. Black,
okay.
native, and light skin. That's what I mean. I don't paper bag test black folks. You know what I mean? So to me, you could be dark as whatever to light as whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's what Latino means to me.
we live in this world now where you see the Afro Latino and the they say the Afro Indigenous person. So I feel that there would also be an Afro. I mean, again, like we're talking very futuristically here. Like Juancholoa and I, run with like native and indigenous or native for the most part, and our main goal is to like get more people to wake up. So copper is like way far ahead. But what I want to bring up is like, so there would also be an Afro copper too. So then wouldn't that mean that African Americans, Black people in Central and South America would be more so there'd be separation between people who are copper and then people that are not copper but are black. That's the point I'm trying to get across. So then that means that
Right.
copper people would specifically mean people that are light skinned or native indigenous people.
The way I defined copper was anybody that fell in between that native and black label. Some people don't want to be called black, and some people don't want to be called native. So that in between, to me, was a good, basically compromise, being called copper. You know what I mean? So that's what my
Okay.
definition of it was, and that's why I preference it as a in between label. Some
Right.
people don't want to go on the right, some people don't want to go on the left, and it's fine. So now we have a label, and remember when I said now we have a definition to go with that label,
Right.
people from the original land and stuff. So to me, that means Mexico, Central, South America, and also the Caribbean, because Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, those are places where Latin people are held, and they are, and there were indigenous tribes there. So that's the reason why I included them into it. Do you guys agree? Disagree? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so yeah, for the Latino, like the way you interpret it, yeah, I mean, okay, so Latino, yeah, we just interpret it like the way we initially said it, like everyone's kind of lumped in, like how they are, like by documentation. I understand now. I understand what you mean when you say Latino. I would just say, like, as for the copper thing, yeah, I think it's like, so the definition, like having origins in the original people, so the North, Central, South America, and we can throw in the Caribbean, right? So I would say, yeah, it's an in-between label. So, I mean, if you're not 100% anything and you're in between, but you're like mixed with a varying degree, right? It can be anything, but with notable amount of indigenous DNA. And when I say notable, I'm just talking about like just, 15, 20, 25%, I mean, minimum, like you're just mixed with some other thing, yeah, copper would apply to you. But I was just saying, like, if a person's like completely white or completely black, they should just, they're just that. So they should probably just identify with those things, because copper's kind of meant for kind of like the three of us here. We all have varying degrees of mixture here. And that's what it would encompass, especially because of our skin tone. We can all see,
of course. We're no, we're all brown. I get you.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like when I'm talking about, I don't make any differentiation. So like in terms of if somebody's like 80% white, 20% native, and yeah, they're copper, cool. Somebody's 80% black, 20% native or something, and even though they still look really black, but they still got native blood, like, because they know they're still copper. That's fine. Like I don't make any discrimination just because it happens to be. That's why I always think it's funny. Like so when this has been pointed out before, where there's people that are like 50% black, 50% native, and they'll like, people will challenge them more and be like, oh yeah, you're not native, and it's like, no, yeah, they're literally the same thing too. Like if they want to identify with that, that's fine. Like yeah. So I don't play that whole just because they're black, I'm gonna gonna be discriminating against them. No, it's the same thing as
Yeah.
if you were mixed with whites. It's
Yeah,
fine.
of course. Now, any questions? Anything that you guys want to say that maybe got misunderstood on my end? Anything you guys want to ask me to like redefine or clarify?
Oh well, I mean, what do you think about that kind of the definition that I threw out there? Like, to be copper, you can have varying degrees of mixture, but you just need some native blood,
Original blood of the
Right.
continent of the original people.
Oh yeah, no, I agree to that. Of course, I
Okay,
agree to
so
that. Yeah. I definitely agree to that because
Cool.
the majority of Latin folks do got various degrees of indigenous blood. Look at my updated DNA results. It's like 48% indigenous. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely agree to that. I know there's Latin folks that are black in Spanish. So obviously they'll go into the black side. I get that. And there's also going to be Latin folks that are indigenous in Spanish. Obviously they'll go into the indigenous side. But again, uh, it's going to be a middle. You know what I mean? But I definitely do agree with that assessment because you do need a certain connection to said land. You
right.
just can't just call just
Substantial amount. Yeah.
exactly. So and also I want to just say shout out to Juan because you sent me a Spotify link which I had to repeat like 3 times, right?
Right.
And tell the people what the Spotify link was about, and I'll tell you what my new realization is. You know what I'm saying? So tell the people.
So the Spotify link I sent to Radical because I had mentioned this in my comment section with, and like to like a lot of the people that were like, "Oh, Radical's evil." Like I was like, dude, like I sent like, it's fine if we have differing opinions, but I sent this Spotify link to maybe this will clear up misconceptions. So I sent him one to a podcast by Curly Tlapoyao, which is a guy of Nahua descent that we follow, and he has an episode covering the whole Black Olmec controversy, right? So, and he's an archaeologist, so I just wanted to like send that to Radical Latino. Maybe he would consider it, right, and see maybe if his viewpoints have changed, or maybe because I remember him saying in the last video he was kind of like on the fence about it. He didn't know one way or the other because he's heard conflicting information. So I just wanted to send him something to just see where he stands after hearing that whole podcast.
Yeah. So I did see during our interview, which was live, a lot of people who were my retractors were basically saying he thinks the Olmecs are black, right? So they were pretty much like not gun shy. They were
Yeah.
they were like they were it was like they were hitting me up with ammo and all that. And I did make a video talking about how indigenous people were black and they were here in America. And I rightfully got corrected by that. And I didn't make an update video, correcting it because again, I was finding conflicting information. I was finding information that was on one side, and I was finding information that was also on the other side, talking about how indigenous people were black here, and then there was saying that no, there was no black folks here. Indigenous people were here, but it is very interesting how certain things do connect. Like in Africa, there's pyramids. Also in Mexico, Central and South America, there's also pyramids. Also, so I do see why certain people do connect the two. You know what I mean? And that's where the
Right.
camp I was. When you send me that link, right? I'm very open-minded into new information, and again, opinions can evolve, right? So when you sent me that link, I was like, all right, let me go check it out. Driving down to the city, New York City, right? Driving down to the city, I'm listening to it, and it's not that long. It's like a good 40, 50 minutes, right? Driving down to the city, and every time they're making a point, mind you, just let me just break the whole episode down. They're talking about a article about the Black Olmecs and stuff like that, and these individuals emailed the person who wrote the article, and they basically break everything down. So I had to hear it the first time on full, then hear it again very concisely to understand everything that they're saying, and then hear it one more time with the computer in front of me and actually researching certain things. And I am going to have to say that I have to agree with them and say that the Olmecs and indigenous people were not black. Just I see and I understand, because the broad nose and the big lips and the dark skin, I understand that they will be considered black. But nowadays, black is so broad that now literally everybody's gonna be considered black, and I get that. You know what I'm saying? I totally understand it. I totally get that. But it was one part that he said that got me, was like, whoa, I wasn't thinking it like that, and I didn't see it like that. It's basically white supremacy with blackface. And I said, wait a minute. I see that now. I see his point. You know what I'm saying? Now I see his point. And I started to actually dive back a little and say, okay, let me see this through a real historical lens. And there was plenty of archaeologists that even said the indigenous people were indigenous people. They were not black as the sense of it now. They have dark skin? Of course they did, but that does not mean that they were black. You feel what I'm saying? They're a complete different race. So now that's when I understood, and I was like, okay, now I see. You know what I'm saying? So, do you guys agree with my assessment? Do you see it the same way, or what?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Like I watched that video. I don't know like literally every single thing about the whole matter, but I've read articles that they put out, and I've listened to that podcast before, and other people that put out similar podcasts, and it makes sense. I mean, like, yes, I mean, we have different skin tones as indigenous people, so yes, I mean, like, for example, the Rara movie can get very, very dark, and some people might even consider them like almost black, but it's still a completely different race of people. So yeah, I mean, the point was like modern black people, like what we consider like Africans today, were not here back then. They came through the slave trade, unfortunately. They got enslaved by white people. So that's really the main point. Because the Olmecs have been very dark skinned. Yeah, of course. I mean, you've got modern day indigenous people that are very dark skinned too. So yeah. I was just interested to see what your take was going to be after watching that Spotify, because those two are pretty good. They're pretty good scholars. So I thought you'd enjoy listening to them.
And I can see again, like how you were talking about conflicting views, like there are pyramids built, in Africa and here. So perhaps some people can get some things, confused at times, I think. But now, I think when you read and listen to people, like Curly, things make a bit more sense. And we're all able to, have agreeing points. But I guess, like you had brought up earlier, that like, what was it, white supremacy with blackface, and that's what really, made you think more and more about like what was going on. And I guess for me, I always, my thing is, it's the thing that a lot of, unfortunately, a small, group of African Americans that want to say that they're the original people here. The reason it was so easy for me to disagree with their points was that like they were calling all the natives like y'all are from Siberia, y'all are Asians, and all this like really negative, in my opinion, racist stuff. So that was, as soon as they started saying that stuff, I was just like, okay, yeah, you're wrong. Because, I'm not going to agree with you if you're going to start insulting, me and, Native Indigenous brothers and sisters out there. And I saw that right away.
Well, one thing though, I will criticize our own side sometimes is, and me and Marcus don't do this, but when it comes to this issue, some people like want to be racist back against like black people, and it's like you've got to realize like this is just a debate. Like you don't have to be anti-black. Like most black people are very proud of being African and being black, and it's a beautiful thing to be that identity. So whenever we debating these ideas, you've got to remain professional. You've got to remain like a scholar, right?
Civil.
Civil, right? So you can't be descending into racism yourself, because then you just turn into a hypocrite.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree to that, because I have seen certain black folks who are militant, who are in the Black Power movement, speaking very negative about indigenous folks and Latin people, and I see, I know how to differentiate the two, you know what I'm saying? But again, I know that nobody should be lumping one person because they represent that group, and lumping that whole group because of one person's opinion. You know what I mean? So I totally understand that's completely false, and that's wrong to do, because then we're not gonna go anywhere with it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're here to fight against the oppression, which is called white supremacy. And once we start, this little civil war, guess who's gonna win at the end of the day? You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I don't even entertain those type of things whatsoever. But I do have some corrective videos, you know what I mean, where I'm like, no, well, homie's wrong here, you know what I mean, or
Yeah, sure.
kind of misleading here, you know what I'm saying? So I do know how to walk that thin line. But one thing I wanna ask you guys, where the whole labeling for Latin folks, where does that stand now? Do you guys still think that copper or bronze is a good label, or do you think that we still need to workshop it?
So I like, for people like we were talking about, like, that are just those varying degrees of mixture, but that have indigenous blood, right? I think I really like copper. So the reason why is because it's been actually used historically. And if I can present screen, maybe I could show you guys. All right. So actually, what I came to find out as far as the about copper is that it's actually already been used in South America by these Spanish dictionaries, even from the 1800s. Like, they talk about
Really?
white, yellow, copper. Yeah, you see right here, brown, or
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's actually down in South America. I guess it was like their way of replacing, or maybe their differentiation of red, because I know up here in the continental U.S. they use red for a lot of the natives, right? Oh, they're red people.
Yeah.
But I think copper was something similar, because I was looking at a lot of sources from South America, and copper has been the racial color or term already been used for hundreds of years, even in Spanish dictionaries. And I could always send you this source. I just translated it to English because it's in Spanish. But not only that, I also looked into the that source Pocho was talking about. All right, so basically this
Wait,
this guy.
what page is that? What page is that first?
It's going to be 19.
Okay, got it. Okay, good.
19 here in the book, and then I'll go to another page, which is I know exactly where to go. So,
all right,
this guy's name is Antaro Humala. So I'll pull up like what he looks like. So he is controversial in Peru because his brother became president, but he was also kind of turned his back against indigenous people a little bit and was a traitor like his brother. But this guy was fighting for indigenous people and rebelled against the Peruvian government and was locked up in 2005. So he's been in prison since then, right? But he and he has like an ethno-nationalist standpoint, and he had a lot of indigenous support when he actually went to prison from Ecuador and Bolivia. But this is what he looks like. So an indigenous man, and he didn't coin the term because copper was already in use way before this, but he popularized it with his book, where he's saying that we all have that copper root. Basically, he's saying we have a copper biological root in which all of us, Indios or Cholos or Mestizos, are inheritors of this, right? And we're demographically the majority. That's what he's saying in the book, right? So this is two reasons why I really like it, is because, okay, well, it's already been used as a racial term for our people anyways. and it's a color.
Yeah.
And some people have made the argument like, oh, well, we can't relate like black people in terms of racial identity because like, you know, indigenous, you know, it's not a color. And it's like, well, here's a color we can use. Like you can, because I mean, it's harder to deny, like even if you're mixed, it's harder to deny somebody like, how are you going to tell somebody that's obviously copper colored you're not copper? They are like you can't argue like what they look like. It's harder to argue against that point. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why I like it. And then this indigenous man's used it. I mean, obviously not perfect, but still, I mean, he's popularized it, and he's saying we have a biological copper root. So I just that's why I really like the term, and it's also like just really dignified in general. Like that's why I really just like the whole concept of copper here. Okay. So that's why I'm still for the whole copper thing. I don't know if you've kind of changed position on it or not, but
no, I like it. The thing is, I know I was hearing all sides of it. You know, again, I like it, but it doesn't mean that it's still workshop. You know what I mean? It's not set in stone. You know, so we still need to workshop it as a group. You know, because I believe as a group, once we understand what it is and what we should identify, I think that that's going to be a good, good space that we go to, you know?
Yeah, no, certainly. But, yeah. And I saw some people make that same point that you ran across the whole, like, well, isn't it a step back to identify as a color? But it's like, people are already identified as a color. So, you know, black people, white people, it's already there. So, I mean, it really wouldn't be anything new or even a step back. It's already there in the present day. So I don't really see it that way. It's just like, it's a good unifier again. Like look at what black people have done with Black Lives Matter, the civil rights movement, used it successfully for these political social movements. It's like, we could easily do the same thing. And it's easy to rally behind around. Like, I mean, we're copper colored. Like it's a nice name. It has a good ring to it. It's a good unifier for like, and it's so much more dignified than freaking going and calling yourself a freaking half breed. Like, oh yeah,
I totally agree to that. I as you can see, I resonate with it. You know what I mean?
Actually, I'll be right. Let me get something. You're gonna laugh.
Yeah. But I totally agree to it. I believe that, you know, the people who do go against it, who want to say, hey, you know, we shouldn't identify as a color. I understand where they're coming from with it. And again, like I said before, it's something workshop. It's not something set in stone. It's not something that we're going to be like, tomorrow everybody needs to. We're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I totally understand where they're coming from. So what's up? What you gonna show us?
So you're gonna laugh. This is actually a pure copper coin. So I was just gonna.
Oh, this guy.
This is a pure copper coin, bro.
Yeah,
and I match it fucking perfectly. So
wait. Are you gonna copper test people now?
Copper test, bro. You're gonna have to hold a pure copper coin, bro.
Yeah,
fucking copper.
Everybody get your pennies together. Now let me stop.
Yeah, I got.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Wait. No, let me stop.
Yeah, no, like I got it as a gift. Like it's like pure copper, and I thought it was funny. I was like, bro, like my skin tone's like the same fucking thing as this thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that was hilarious.
No, but I see what some people say. You know what I mean? I understand it. Like I totally understand it. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, right? Let's just say copper is not a good thing, right? We shouldn't be using a color. What other identifier you guys might think that would be a good use?
So, all right. So I don't really have a solution, but I do have like an analysis of the problem I constantly see. Okay. So if copper is not going to be used, what I've noticed with other racial groups is if they don't use a color, they go by geography, right? Asians for the continent of Asia, right? But the problem is every time we bring up geography, people complain because like they don't like the name American because it derives from apparently some European named Amerigo.
So Turtle Island, that's what we're gonna go by. Turtle Island. Nah.
So there's that problem, like, with the whole geography thing. So people don't even like that. People don't like Indian because of the whole things from India. Even though I don't know if that's an accurate thing to say, because I'm not sure if India was actually a thing, or I guess it was. I don't know. I have heard like Lakota guy, this guy we've had on, he says that the whole Indian complaint is like not valid because, but he goes more into that. Maybe I need to have him on the podcast and explain that more. But I mean, I always thought Amerindian was cool because I'm just like, okay, well, it's more anthropological. No one actually calls themselves that anyways. So Amerindian would be cool. But I've had people complain because of the Indian and the Ameri portion. And it's just like, you guys are never happy with anything, man. So like, not geography,
that's the reason why I said we gotta workshop this. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand with geography. People are gonna be like, "Well, I'm not American." You know what I mean? Like, I get it. So we're gonna have to workshop it. You know what I'm saying? So any suggestions? Like, do you guys think like anything like maybe calling us like, I don't know, anything like something different? Like what suggestions do you guys think?
So if we're not going to go based off of color or geography, I think, we just need to make up some random fucking word. Like, well, what do you got, Marcus? You've been kind of quiet.
Well, I was just listening to you guys. I was thinking of, what was it? Again, people always disagree. What was the Nawa term? The Meswali?
Right, but see, I've already heard like complaints about that. So when it comes to using an indigenous word, people are like saying, well, it would be an insult to Nahuas to use their language, especially for people that, are like, let's say from South America that have no connection to Nahuas. So it's like, why would you use a term like Masawali? Then I've had people complain saying that some people that are Nahua already use that for themselves, like certain ethnic groups. So it'd be like stepping on their toes. So like, and like, as far as using indigenous language in general, I've had people say, well, whatever ethnic group you use it from, they're not going to be happy that you're stealing that word. And basically, I got one.
Sun people.
All right. Sun people. Oh.
Sun people.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Sun people.
I'm just saying. Sun, like the sun. Sun people. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
maybe.
Hey, I need to roll over on that one. Actually, I don't think that's bad. I need to roll that over too.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the sun. You know what I'm saying? Brown. I don't know.
Yeah.
What y'all think? We could be Earth people. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like nature. I don't know. Some. I don't know. Let's. We gotta workshop it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of workshop thinking.
I mean, we can continue to see what people say in the comments for sure. But I mean, I know at least a good amount, dude. When we did the polls, did like
listen.
The
comments, I already know the comment section. You know what I mean? They're gonna already come. They're already gonna come for especially me, but they're gonna come for everybody. So they're gonna be going crazy with it. But like the thing is that, again, it's our identity, and we definitely need to come together and speak on that, and come up with something that we all agree with. Because I understand, okay, not a color, whatever, right? All right, get it. Not a geography, I get it, So at least let's come up with let's brainstorm something that we're all going to be cool with. You know what I'm saying? So
I would say polling and repolling and seeing where it stands. I mean, like I said, a good chunk though. We're saying good for copper, but I know there was a portion that were like, "Oh, we're not fans." But I mean, I still personally I don't want to give up on it yet, but I am willing to entertain other things and like try to brainstorm other shit. So that's fine with me. I don't know if you've given up yet on that, Radical, or if you're still like mulling that one.
No, I'm for whatever, but I really resonated with copper, bro. I really resonated with copper. So I'm more towards your side. You know what I'm saying? Like with the whole copper thing. But
let's see if we can. Yeah, but you want to see maybe if we can find another thing that might be even better, right?
Yeah. Like,
but if we can't, cool. But if
You know what
we
I'm saying?
can, I mean, we still we still got it. We still got this
Yeah,
shit.
no,
So,
yeah. You know what I mean? Like, again, that coin contest. You know what I'm saying?
going
You feel me? You know what I'm saying? So, I see, like, we gotta definitely come up with something. Now, let me direct this towards Marcus for a little bit. Um,
Sure.
if you feel comfortable, let me know. So you said that you were adopted. But I'm just gonna ask, were you adopted by Latin folks, a black family, white family? What kind of family were adopted you?
Yeah, so I was adopted by white parents, white Americans. I feel that most indigenous native adoptees are usually adopted by white parents as well. Actually, I don't know any non-white American parents. I think if you do statistics, majority of American parents that do adopt outside of the U.S. are usually white. So yeah, I was raised in a very white community, went to a very white school. Um, and to be honest, my experience was fine. I mean, I had my ups and downs. I had people I liked in high school, and people that if they got abducted by aliens, I wouldn't care what happens. But
Gotcha.
and I know, like, for a lot of native adoptees, indigenous adoptees that are out there, from Peru, Central and South America, they do unfortunately have a lot of traumatic experiences. And some, unfortunately, I don't like to say this too much, but a lot of parents weren't meant to adopt kids. It's really sad because a lot of the adoptees that I know turn out good, and then some don't turn out so hot. And the purpose of them being adopted is to be raised in a better place, a good environment, safe environment for them to grow and have a family one day and live like a peaceful life. But yeah, sometimes that isn't the case. But yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up because um I've known a few Latin folks who were adopted by white families, and I have not seen one who actually came out, I'll say quote unquote normal. Most of them have white supremacist ideologies. Some of them have these type of ideologies that you only find in white folks, where they only want to hang around white folks, and they adopt this weird fetish for dating women who haven't been with black men. So I've seen those type of things, and my question to you, um, did you see early on that white adopted family kind of like indoctrinating you, or was that not the case?
no, not really at all. That's interesting that you bring that up in New York. I mean, I can see how maybe an adoptee, particularly an indigenous native adoptee, might have, unfortunately, some white supremacist views, because I know of adoptees that do have parents that have these unfortunate negative perceptions of different groups of people, and particularly some of them are negative perceptions of black African Americans, and it's very sad. But that's the reality in some cases. I would say, I'd like to think, a small amount, but for me, no, I never had that sort of thinking. I mean, my family taught me that there's good and bad people of all groups. And that's just how life is, and to not have this negative perception of others. And I have friends from every group, whether it's white, black, or Asian. And I've dated people from different groups, ethnic groups of. So it's. I would say that I'm fortunate to live the life that I have lived. If I was never adopted, I would have likely perished in Peru. So I'm always thankful to be in the position that I am today. But again, I know not every adoptee is in that position, and it's sad. A lot are raised to have these. Not a lot. A few are raised to be somewhat racist, and have these negative perceptions of others. But it's ultimately up to them to change that. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
I
it's
I
as
I totally get it. Like I totally understand. But continue.
oh no, I was going to say, and that's what I was thinking. Like when I was trying to think of insults that perhaps Juancholoa's our enemies might think of us, particularly the Hispanistas. They would probably call me the Anglo-raised, evil mestizo that worships Anglo ideologies or some like weird shit like that.
Indigenous podcast is evil. That's what they say, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
stuff like that, man.
Now let me ask you guys. I know in the beginning of this interview, you guys said that that you guys don't want to go into the whole like hating white folks type of thing because you guys have white friends. First of all, I want to just say, boo for y'all. No, let me stop. No, let me stop. I why would you why do you guys have that type of like talking because certain folks will be like no screw whitey, you know what I'm saying, screw that, and other people would will have that type of mentality saying no, it's whatever, it is what it is. So uh for the people in the back, can you guys explain that?
So first of all, like my family and all my cousins, everyone's white. So when we go against like if you have people in the Discord that are going to be, and we made these rules really clear. Like if you're going to be racist towards any group, then I'm going to kick you out because like you're talking crap about my parents and that's not cool. Like my parents raised me. Like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be alive. I have friends that are white that are like completely that aren't what these certain people think of. Like it's asinine to me, in my opinion. You can't have this sort of thinking. Again, like if you start to exclude others and you live in a very diverse country, whatever plan you have on reaching some political level as far as like, I don't know, some sort of change, it will fall flat on its face. You must be inclusive to everyone. And if you aren't, then as I said, it won't go anywhere. That's why Juancholoa and I push for this. And of course, like, I have friends. I grew up with like, friends that were white and whatnot. So, and it's very interesting that you say that, Radical, because I know people that even certain close people that feel very uncomfortable with being in a classroom that is surrounded by essentially white, maybe students or white people, a building. But for me, I don't have that problem. Maybe it's I don't know. I mean, I was adopted, but I'll be very honest with you. I think that the current social climate that we live in is not good for us. I think it actually is very much like white. A lot of the climate is that white Americans are bad. They've done all these terrible things. Yada 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 yada. We're living in this world that will never get up to them, and I think that's really bad for civilization. Country to grow, because if we have this perspective, then it's going to create animosity, and how can we I mean, we have to be realistic here. We live in the United States. And of course, as I told you before, I know there's people in this country that if they got abducted by aliens, I wouldn't care what happens to them the next day. But the majority of them, I'm serious, man, they can get probed. I don't care. I'm sorry, that's going too far. But
No, I get you, bro.
man.
I get you.
Yeah, so we have to sorry.
No, go ahead, go, bro.
Oh, just like coming together and like having the majority of people support what we have to do. Like we can't Juancholoa and I can't say this in my opinion this extreme stuff. Like, of course I understand like the importance of recognizing white supremacy, like the problems that come from that. Like again, if you have a last name that might sound foreign, and if it's like I don't know, in some high rich like New York style Oregon company, then there is a chance that you would be discriminated against. Unfortunately, that is the reality in some cases, but it is not of all cases. And as a kid, I was like kind of oblivious to certain things, so maybe I was like discriminated against at some points and I didn't realize it. But again, like going back, having that mentality is it's not good. I think it's important because again, like from what my family taught me, like there's good and bad people of every group, um, and that's just how it is. I like to be inclusive, but I mean, I'm not afraid to call out like history as it is. Like colonization was bad, and it was like created by a lot of like Western Europe and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Japan was in it too, but that's
Yeah.
another time for another story.
Gotcha.
um,
Juancholoa, what are your thoughts into this question? Why y'all sympathizing for white folks? No, let me stop. Oh,
Yeah, dude.
what is yours? What are your thoughts?
So I mean, growing up here in Alabama, obviously I grew up with Mexican family with that culture and everything. But in school, there was quite a bit of black people here, but there is a lot of white people, and I made a lot of friends that were white and grew up with them. And don't get me wrong, I have faced a lot of discrimination. However, I've had solid friends that have backed me up, that have stood up for me, that are good people, So I just think it's a mistake when people want to. They'll complain about white supremacy and racism, but then they want to do the same thing back. And it's like, you can't do that. It's like you're being a hypocrite and doing that. And like Martin Luther King says, you can't drive out hate with hate. It's just never going to work. It's always going to be stuck in this loop. You can't judge.
I'm gonna have to cut you off just real quick. He also did say unfortunately, he walked his people into a burning house. So, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. But continue.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, he might have said some stuff that was contradictory to that message too, right? But I mean, I still agree with that statement at the very least. Like, I think let's not judge people just by their skin color as well. Like in the reverse, there are plenty of white people that have been allies that have helped social change come about, that stood with black people during the civil rights era, that have stood by minorities now. So they can be very good allies, and they can be very good people. So it doesn't mean let's pull our punches calling out white supremacy or pull our punches calling out colonialism. Yes, we will continue to do that, but let's not also descend into unreasonableness. And because I've seen statements like, oh, white people are evil, or as a collective are evil, which are really broad statements, which I warn people about. It's like, it always goes back to these broad ass statements you want to make. And it's like, that's dangerous territory. So stay away from that. So, but yeah, I mean, I have like a lot of, white friends and people that have helped me along the way, that have stood by me. So it'd be betraying them to be like, oh, well, fuck all white people. I'm not going to do that. So
what I heard, what I was hearing the whole time you guys were talking, you know what I'm saying? Y'all a bunch of white sympathizers, you know what I mean? I don't like that, you know what I'm saying? When you talk about white supremacy, I talk about all white folk. No, let me stop. I totally agree that having allies, no matter where they come from, is very important in any fight, in any struggle. The thing is, whenever I do talk about white supremacy, or anybody talks about white supremacy, they tend to just focus on the word white and think that, oh, you hate all white folk. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And there's been plenty of examples of the John Browns of the world who actually put their life on the line in order to protect and in order to call out their own people. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely understand that the whole allyship is very real, and we definitely do need white folks in this type of fight that we are having. You feel what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, due to white supremacy, them white folks could go into meetings, could open doors that we cannot have access to. So having good allyships is something that we definitely should be striving for. You know what I'm saying? Do you guys agree with that? Disagree with that?
No, definitely. I mean, it goes into and it's funny, me and my best friend talk about this, but it goes into a term that I like to use called social maneuvering. You got to play your cards right. You got to play the politics game. And yeah, I mean, being extremist in a diverse society like the United States is just not going to work to your favor. You're not going to be able to make headway. You need something like this to go mainstream in order to get really good traction and get things accomplished. And you can't do that if you're going to be racist in the reverse sense. So because I mean, the population numbers are what they are, and it also goes back to like my morality. You know, I'm not going to become the thing that I'm fighting against either. Like in the reverse. So yeah, I think they can be very strong allies, and you should make more friends than you make enemies. I mean, we always talk about the enemies on Indigenous podcast, but we have way more friends. I mean, obviously because we got all these subscribers. So
Yeah, no, I agree. Like allyship is really important. Like and being, again, like going back to being inclusive to others. And what Juancholoa and I like stand for is like, Native, unity and pushing for like, how would I say, just more empowering those that are more, disenfranchised. But of course, having supporters and non-native supporters, regardless of if they're like Asian, Black, or white, that's really important for us. And I think that a lot of our followers would agree with those points too, as well. So yeah, having allies is really good, and we bring on people on the show that that have their points, regardless of if they're I mean, it is called Indigenous Podcast, yes, but
Yeah.
we're always fine with bringing on anyone from any group that wants to
So
discuss
so
their
let me
points.
let me ask you guys, what are your thoughts on the $5 Indians? Dog, the bounty hunters of the world, the Elizabeth
yeah,
Warrens of the world, having literally
God.
no lick of indigenous blood, but they're like, I'm indigenous. You know what I mean? And when they get called out, you know what I'm saying?
Dare you?
So
this
what
shit
what
kills
are,
me every
what
time.
are what are your thoughts on those $5 Indians? Do you want to ally with them? Do you what are your thoughts?
No, I don't want to ally with them. I think that should be condemned. I just think it's silly because you're stealing an identity from people like when you're racially not that, you don't have the that racial experience or look or identity that goes with that. If so, I just think it's dishonest to do that. I mean, and why because if it was me, like if I was 95% white, I would just say I'm white. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh well, but I'm 5% something. I'd just be like, no, I'm just white, and I would just, I mean, see, that's another thing. Like I just think it's kind of odd. Like people, like I've noticed some white people do this where they will take that small percentage of whatever other race they are, and they want to identify with it. And it's just like there's nothing wrong with just being white. You can be proud of like having ancestors that are white. Like you can be proud that you had a Roman ancestor. We was Romans, but but you can be proud of that. You can be proud of the fact that you had knights in England, right? Maybe you had ancestors that were knights or some shit. Like, you can be proud of that shit. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's cool ancestry too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. So, but yeah, I just think it's kind of weird when people that are like, yeah, like 90% something else, but they want to focus on that 5%. This is like, dude, that makes no sense.
Yeah,
So,
and then going back, adding on to that, I mean, is I think there's an article that just came out where there's some people in Canada that are like, I don't know, like 98% white, and they were using this. We had this native ancestor from long, long ago. Therefore, we should like be called native indigenous as well. Give us our benefits, yada yada yada. I think that's really, really bad. And like Juancholoa, I have no interest in associating with those people that want to do such a terrible thing. Especially someone like
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren. Like,
Yeah,
screw
yeah,
that lady.
yeah, she's like, people like that are very cringy. I said this plenty of times. When I had my business, and I went for a small business loan. This small business minority loan was just for minorities, and you would think that Black, Latin, Asians, could apply. That whole room was filled with white folks. And literally, I spoke to one. He had one feather on like when you hold a pencil on your ear. He had one feather talking about I'm 1/8 Cherokee. I'm like, bro,
Jeez.
you look 1/8 Cherokee, nothing. Not even in your elbows. Not even in your elbows look indigenous, bro. Like, what are you talking about? So I feel like that's very, very cringy when it comes to those type of talking points.
Sure.
Also, I wrote an article actually, I saw an article and I wrote it on my website, radicallatino.com, news article. You know what I'm saying? That there was this I believe there was this politician who used indigenous status to his benefit to I believe I believe he used it to his benefit to get certain benefits from his own state, and then he rewrote certain laws in order to recoup more benefits for it. So I do see how these certain $5 Indians are coming into this whole thing and putting a bad name on the indigenous people. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
let's
Sure.
be let's be honest, those are the let's be honest, those are the colonizers. You know what I mean? And they're just coming in the LARPing. I'm gonna just use their word, LARPing, as something that they're not. You know what I mean? So I think you guys saved yourselves from the whole, white praising. You know what I'm saying? No, let me start. No, but I no no, but I feel like some of these white folks who do want to be allies with us should be calling those type of things out in their own community.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. What do you guys think about that?
I'm sure there are some that are, but unfortunately, it's something that's not covered in the news, like a lot of things in the news. I don't know if I told you this, but I find the most of American news outlets, conservative or liberal, like extremely biased. I worked, I was a journalist at one time, so I
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right.
for a very very short period though. Yeah, but
Yeah.
just
What
like
made you get into that?
I liked writing. I wasn't too great at it, but I enjoyed it. I thought I wanted to get into a position that I would enjoy in life, but I kind of slowly realized I wanted to pursue something else. So I got out. But I liked
Gotcha,
writing about
gotcha.
stories and like events going on in the world. I'm always like reading about international news and things like that. I always thought that
Yeah,
being a
yeah, yeah.
correspondent in a different part of the world would be really cool. So
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's what I wanted to do. I've been to like a lot of places. Like I've been to China and Germany and Thailand and all these places. So just like I really like culture and whatnot, just
So
different parts of.
you wanted to be the indigenous Tim Pool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Okay, I got you. I
Indigenous
got
temple.
you.
Yeah, I mean it would have been fun, but I'm content. I'm somewhat I'm content with where I'm at. But yeah,
Gotcha.
it's been a fun ride.
Gotcha. Hey, nothing is stopping you from getting a website and putting news articles up there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
sure. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you know what I mean. Now one small concern that I got from your guys' is a whole platform. How come I cannot find it on iTunes, Google, Spotify, and all them other places?
We were
What
working
is
on
going on?
that.
Is there a conspiracy against y'all? Like what's up? Like you know what I mean? Like what's going on? How come I can only find y'all on YouTube? I don't want to use YouTube. You feel me? I want to lock my phone. I want to lock my phone and hear y'all. Like what's up? No. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
I'll be completely frank with you. We've just been lazy ass bitches. Like we haven't we haven't gotten all these places. Like
Well, you didn't insult me like that, man.
all right, but it's the truth, bro. We just been like too lazy to do it yet. But
I'm
we need to do it. We need to do it. We were thinking at least just Spotify and Podbean. 'Cause I think it'd be cool on there. Maybe to curb the laziness. Maybe we won't right away go back and do every video, but maybe every single new one going forward will be on that shit. So at least that'll be like easy to do at the same time.
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, but
I
we've had people bring it up, and they've been
yeah.
like, "Why the fuck are you guys not on these places?"
Yeah, like I think definitely when I started my podcast on most of these platforms, the biggest reaction and the biggest support that I was getting was from the podcast, and then the YouTube thing started growing. It's kind of weird that I got more followers followers on my podcast than I do on YouTube, which is weird. You know what I'm saying? That
that's
doesn't
interesting.
and also like during this interview, I just got an email from iTunes. They reapproved me or whatever because some of these white supremacists was mass flagging my iTunes podcast, but they reapproved me and they pretty much put something on my account where that won't affect me. You know what I'm saying? So nice try. So yeah, but that's also a thing that you guys have to like watch out for the whole like false flagging type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Before we wrap it up, tell us how'd you enjoy this interview? Tell us where they could find you. Tell us what your social medias are. By the way, if anybody wants to follow the Indigenous podcast, everything will be down below. But let us know where people can find you. Let us know what you thought about the interview. Anything you want to ask me, anything you disagree with. Did I clarify my statements? Did I clarify my stance and all that? You know what I mean? What's up?
So I was just gonna say like I'm gonna share our video like when it's posted from your channel onto our community page, and I'm gonna put at the beginning. I'm just like watch the whole fucking video before you say something. Number one, but yeah, I mean, I figured it was just a slight communication, and that was it. Like, I wasn't really worried about it, but yeah, people like always just want to instigate like drama, like drop the ball and like cry and screech, and yeah, just lose their shit over little things. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you made your positions very, very clear, and I mean, we agree on, anyways, for the most part on everything. So I mean. It was a good interview, man, and I want to continue working with you. I want you to continue to be on our podcast from time to time, and hopefully we'll be back on here too occasionally as well. So you're a strong ally, and we're glad to be working with you. So yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, you clarified everything well. This was a whole lot of fun. Being on here, I had some good laughs. Your little banjo sound was pretty funny. But yeah, man, it's been a good time. I look forward to watching it again, and I look forward to having you on our podcast. So yeah, man, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you. Tell the people where they could find you guys. Tell the people where they could what social media platforms you guys are in.
I was gonna say, like, you can find Marcus on Facebook, and if you find him, go to his profile picture and comment mestizo for me. I'm just kidding. Don't do that shit. He's gonna get mad.
Dang it! What have you done?
One time I did do that shit just for the laughs, and a couple of our supporters found I commented like how hard reacted it. I thought it was shit.
Marcus is gonna go.
Yeah, I'm getting ready.
No, you can follow us, obviously, to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the biggest thing you can do right now. We have a Discord server, but if you're a troll, we'll kick you out pretty quickly. But we might drop that link back on there here soon. And then Marcus, I know we have an Instagram page, but you're more familiar with that one.
Yeah. So yeah, we have Indigenous podcast or YouTube channel. Please check us out. And then we do have, it's called Natives United, and that was the original term I wanted to call us at some point in the early start, which sounds silly. It's going to be changed to Indigenous Podcast. I just have been busy with things. And we'll also change our Facebook account from Natives United to Indigenous Podcast. We will be going on, other podcasts like Apple and other, I forgot what the other applications were, but yeah, just making sure our content gets out on other things. And
you guys gotta do it, man. I was like, why are they only on YouTube? I'm gonna put that question down. I'm gonna ask, you know what I mean? But with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed this interview. All their links will be down below, and I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.
See ya.
Now, I hope that you guys definitely enjoyed that interview. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give them a huge Don DeMarco, for them brothers that came in and shared their knowledge with us. A huge shout out to them. Remember, all links will be down below. If you guys want to follow them, everything will be down below. Their Instagram, their Discord, their YouTube. everything will be down below on the podcast. It will be on the details section of the podcast. Now, with that being said, remember, go to my website, radicallatino.com. Donate to support your boy. Also, hit me up on Cash App, $ Radical Latino if you want to support. Go to my social medias, Radical Latino, basically Radical _ Latino _ on Instagram and Twitter at the same name. You know what I'm saying? And also check out the news spot on my website, radicallatino.com. Go check out the news spot. Check out some of the articles that I'm putting out there, and let's get informed together. You know what I'm saying? I hope you guys liked this interview, and I'm going to leave you guys like I always do with two of my favorite quotes. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, and if black and brown unity doesn't happen in my lifetime, I might not change the world, but I might inspire the mind that will. With that being said, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.